For the past 2 decades, housing economists have been telling the same story. Baby boomers would eventually retire, downsize out of their four-bedroom suburban homes, and release a massive wave of housing supply for younger buyers. Right now, more than 11,000 Americans are turning 65 every single day. We are in what demographers call peak 65, the largest cohort of Americans hitting retirement age in U.S. history. And yet, the wave of supply isn't arriving. According to a new report from RE/MAX Canada published on April 15th, 2026, the reason isn't that boomers are refusing to sell, it's that they have nowhere to downsize to. In this video, we'll break down why the so-called silver tsunami quietly broke, and what that means for the largest wealth transfer in human history. The 2026 National Association of Realtors Generational Trends report came out earlier this month, and the numbers are striking. Baby boomers, ages 61 to 79, now represent 42% of all homebuyers in the United States. They also represent 55% of all home sellers. That means boomers are predominantly selling houses to other boomers. The supply isn't flowing downstream to younger generations, it's circulating within a closed loop. First-time buyers have collapsed to 21% of all transactions. That's the lowest figure since NAR began collecting this data in 1981. NAR's deputy chief economist, Dr. Jessica Lautz, described the market as sharply divided between equity-rich homeowners and first-time buyers who simply can't break in. So why are boomers trading houses with each other instead of releasing supply downstream? This is where the RE/MAX Canada research gets interesting. RE/MAX commissioned a survey of 1,507 Canadians via the Angus Reid Forum at the end of March. 49% of respondents reported low availability of downsizing options in their communities. 8% reported there were literally none at all. 73% of older homeowners said they were concerned about their downsizing options. 32% described themselves as very concerned. The barrier isn't preference, it isn't financing, and it isn't market timing. The smaller units boomers would naturally move into simply do not exist in the communities where they currently live. To be clear, this isn't a uniquely Canadian problem. The same structural failure exists across virtually every American suburb. Most of these neighborhoods were built in waves of single-family home development with no provision for smaller format housing. No townhouses, no duplexes, no garden apartments. A boomer who wants to downsize without leaving their doctor, their friends, and their grandchildren is typically offered two options: a single-family home only marginally smaller than the one they already own, or a high-rise condo in a downtown they don't want to live in. Faced with these choices, most boomers simply stay put. This brings us to the underlying cause, which is zoning. Approximately 75% of residential land in major U.S. cities is zoned exclusively for single-family detached housing. That means duplexes, triplexes, townhouses, and small apartment buildings are literally illegal to construct on most American land. The category of housing that planners call the missing middle has collapsed. In 2025, 2 to 4 unit housing accounted for just 5% of multifamily production. The Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies points out that Massachusetts effectively outlawed the triple-decker, the classic New England downsize unit, through 20th century zoning changes. The housing type that would solve this problem is illegal in the places where the problem is worst. This is one structural failure with two downstream consequences. Younger buyers have nothing to start in. Older homeowners have nothing to move to. Two generations are simultaneously stuck inside the same regulatory architecture. This brings us to the part that economists are only just beginning to grasp. Cerulli Associates projects approximately $84 trillion in assets will transfer from baby boomers to younger generations in charities by 2045. This is the largest intergenerational wealth transfer in human history. Baby boomers currently own roughly $19.7 trillion in U.S. real estate. That's around 41% of the entire country's property value, held by a generation that makes up less than 20% of the population. For most non-wealthy families, the family home represents 50% or more of the total inheritance. If boomers can't downsize, that wealth doesn't transfer. It sits in the house until death, by which point recipients are typically in their 60s or 70s themselves. past prime household formation years, past prime business formation years, and in many cases, the equity has already been spent down. The national average cost for a shared room in a nursing home reached $120,000 per year in 2026. There are also 15.2 million Americans age 55 and older who are childless. For them, that home equity isn't an inheritance at all. It's their long-term care fund. The downsizing myth explains far more than it initially appears to. It explains why housing supply hasn't loosened despite an aging population. It explains why first-time buyers have collapsed to 1981 levels. And it traces back to a single structural failure. Decades of zoning rules that made the housing types people actually need at every stage of life literally illegal to build. The boomers aren't hoarding their homes. They're trapped in them by the same regulatory architecture that's locking everyone else out. What do you think about the downsizing myth and the missing middle housing problem? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching.